Hello everyone, my name is Kamran Akbarzadeh. I'm the co-founder of Project Control Academy and also the founder of Project Managers Club as well as Dream Achievers Academy. Welcome to this webinar on 5 common practices in project management that do more harm than good. And this is presented by Project Managers Club, which is a new club for project managers to learn, to share, and to help each other and network with each other. For more information on Project Managers Club, you can go to www.projectmanagersclub.com. I've been in the project management field as a project manager, project engineer, program lead for several years, for actually over 12 years. And I've seen various practices that project managers, project engineers have. And that's why today I thought I share with you 5 of those common practices that we think everybody does, so it's good to do, but they may create more harm than good. And that's why some best practices are shared after talking about each one of these common practices. Now on the right side, you see a chat box. So if there is any question that might come to your mind, you can just send it through the chat box, or you can ask the question anytime that you feel you should ask the question, or you may leave it to the end. So let's get it started. I'm just going to jump in and start with the 5th common practice in my mind. So there could be lots and lots of common practices that we think could create more harm than good. But these are the ones that I've seen, I've experienced myself. And if you're not careful, they're going to create some issues, either for ourselves or for our team members as project managers. So the 5th common practice is meeting is everything. How many times really you've gone to a meeting and said it's all boring and I didn't get anything out of this meeting? It seems that these days, if we do not meet, we cannot do anything else. We cannot do things on our own. And therefore, we always have to meet. Or if someone is in meeting for the whole day, or their calendar is full for the whole week, so they must be important, or they're too busy. And that's not a very good practice to see. So these are some of the common problems that I've seen with the meetings. One is the high frequency and low productivity. We see too many meetings almost every week, and repeat of the same sort of meetings that don't come to any conclusion, with no conclusion again. So that brings the productivity down. The second one is I've seen that some of the meetings are too long. People come together to, let's say, have a meeting for half an hour or an hour, and sometimes it may take 2 hours. So they are too long. Even the ones with 1 hour or even half an hour, sometimes they're too long for what really needs to be discussed and what should be concluded. The other problem is most of the meetings, I would say, have no agenda, they have no objectives, and just we get an invitation for the meeting from, let's say, the project manager, or we send it to everyone and ask them to attend the meeting, or from the top management. There is no agenda there. We don't really know exactly what's going to be discussed. There is no objective even at the beginning of the meeting, and therefore since there is no objective, there is no agenda, it could be a disaster meeting. At the end, we may not really see what the outcome that we expected in our own mind. And sometimes it goes just off track. And that's what I said. If there is really no focus during a meeting, it may really go off track, side discussions, and therefore it takes much longer than anticipated. And the other thing is that we see lots of project managers, they're disorganized. They're not really organized. They don't have that discipline for the meetings. And they come and people come and it becomes very boring. The other thing that we see as common problem is that meetings become a place for arguments. People come and they argue with each other for maybe half an hour, and nothing comes out of it. As I mentioned earlier, they're boring because really there is not much objective, no agenda, no focus, and there are just a couple of people maybe talk and the rest are quiet, and therefore it's not really a productive meeting and becomes boring. When it's boring, when there is no focus, when there is no objective or agenda, therefore there would be no outcome, and there would be no proper action item at the end. And since meeting after meeting happens during the day and the week, we will see late arrivals, we'll see interruptions, we will see rushing from this meeting, oh, I have to attend another meeting, someone leaves, and it becomes chaos. So meetings really, in many cases, are not what they are meant to be. And in some people's mind, project managers or others, the more meetings, the better. As I said, it's also a common practice that we think whoever has more meetings for the week in their calendar, they should be more important, or they should be busier, or they have a higher degree of involvement or contribution. It may not really be the case. The more meetings doesn't mean the better situation for that person. Now, these are some of the best practices, or I would say food for thought. These are just some suggestions so that you can have more productive meetings, better meetings, less boring meetings, and have some good outcome out of your meetings. One suggestion is limit your meetings to only 30 minutes. Really, 1 hour in many cases is a lot, unless you have a very good agenda, you have enough material to discuss, and you focus, and you know that 1 hour, half an hour is not enough, and therefore you go for 1 hour. But as much as you can, limit your meetings to 30 minutes, stick to that, and therefore come prepared in order to finish on time. Go for a stand-up meetings. That's something that we see in some companies people do. They do not sit to meet, they stand for meeting. When you stand, it seems that there is better interaction. It seems that people do their part, people contribute more, they stick to the timeline, and then they leave. So it seems that the stand-up type of meetings create more productivity and better discussions and better results overall. Go only to meetings that have agenda. You may not agree with this, especially when a meeting comes from top management, but overall, if you have a choice, if someone sends you a meeting invitation, ask them to send you the agenda. Even if he or she is the project manager and you have to attend it. And for project managers, always please send agenda to your team members so they know what's going to be discussed. But if there is a meeting, you are invited and there is no agenda, you may say, I need an agenda to see what it is in there to be discussed. Or if I don't get an agenda, I may not come. Follow the agenda and stay focused. So if when you have an agenda, follow the agenda, stick to it, and stay focused so you finish on time, you get really what you want to get out of the meeting. Have the expected outcome always in your mind. So what do you really want out of this meeting? Why did you invite people for the meeting? So have that expected outcome that you had at the beginning in your mind, so you stay on it, and therefore you achieve the results that you wanted to achieve. Record action items and follow up. So ask someone to become to take notes, to have the minutes of the meeting, and then at the end come up with some action items and then follow up, or either someone follows up you or you yourself follow up. And at the end, set up a no meeting day. Just have one of the days as the no meeting day. And we have in the company that I'm working, we have normally Fridays is a no meeting day, or people really do not uh, ask you to or invite you to any meeting on Fridays, which becomes more productive day for finishing what you want to finish, on the things that you can do it on your own. So setting up a no meeting day is overall a good idea. And if you see very good results and you see that people are happier overall for not meeting, increase that one day to 2 days and shrink your meetings. Cut frequency of your meetings to half. If you normally have 2 hour meetings, go for 1 hour meetings. If you have 1 hour meeting normally, go for half an hour. If you have half an hour meetings and you meet that and you still see you have some more time, you could make it less but achieve the same results, then you can even cut that to 15 minutes stand-up sort of meeting. Try that and you see the results. Okay, so that was about meeting. Meeting is not everything. That's I would say uh, one of the things that we think meeting is everything, but it's not. So now let's go to common practice number 4. Common practice number 4 is talk, talk, talk. How much do you talk? Do you talk a lot or do you talk a little? And as you can see, this person says, do you think I talk too much? I mean, people say I talk too much, but I don't think I do. I may talk a lot, but tons of people talk a lot more than I do. You see, those who talk a lot think that they do not talk a lot compared to many others. And that's a problem. That's why it's a common practice, especially for project managers, that they have to manage the project, they have to interact with many people, and therefore they think they have to talk to everyone. And that's when we forget about other things. We forget about listening, we forget about connecting, we forget about caring. We just talk and talk and talk. And talking a lot could be harmful. Why? Because talking without listening is harmful. If you just talk and do not listen, people understand that, people take that, people notice that, and therefore they do not listen as well, and they withdraw. Talking without action is harmful, and that's another thing. Many, I would say many project managers, many project engineers, they just talk and then they go to the meetings, and what comes after that? More talk and not much action. When I say action, I'm not just saying random sort of actions or any sort of action. Meaningful action, prompt action that takes you closer to completing the tasks or meeting the objectives. Talking without thinking is harmful. So if you talk a lot but you do not think about what you're talking about, that's a problem. That's harmful. Talking without meaning is harmful. When you say something, mean it. This way you can connect better with people. So talk with meaning. Know what you are talking about. Talking without connecting is harmful. If you just talk to people, it's like talking at them. It's like not caring. It's just you think they have to just listen because you are the manager, because you have the authority, but you do not connect to people. For example, you talk, but you just have your head down, or you talk and you do not have an eye contact with people. You talk, but you do not have that emotion about what you're talking about. Therefore, people cannot connect with you well. Talking without caring is harmful. We need to care about people. And if I want to achieve something, if I want to uh, fulfill the objectives of the project and meet the deadlines, I need to care about people when I talk to them. Talking without knowing is harmful, and this comes when we just talk based on the assumptions, because we talk as part of our judgment. We judge others and we talk about it here and there. We do not know if that's true or not. So talking without knowing is harmful. Also, that is related um, to competency, right? So sometimes the project manager is not very familiar with the technical side of the project, but they think they should talk about it here and there, and that's when talking without knowing happens. You do not know a lot about the technical side of project. You do not know about the expertise of people involved, and then you talk about something that doesn't make sense at all. So accept that. Talking at people is harmful. We need to talk to people. We need to connect with them. We have to care about them when we talk to them. We have to listen to them, not just talk at them and expect them to listen to us. And talking too much is harmful, um, because talking too much means listening less, means thinking less, means connecting less, means acting less, right? So talking a lot is harmful. So, and it doesn't really guarantee success. Now, what should you do? These are my suggestions as food for thought about talking. Talk less, listen more. Talk less, listen more. Then you see what happens. When you listen more to people in the meetings, in your interaction with them, you will learn a lot about them. You will see the gaps, and therefore you can provide solutions. This only becomes when you start to talk less and listen more. Talk when necessary, not all the time. You are not born to talk all the time. As a project manager, no one expects you to talk a lot. Talk when necessary and control the amount of time you talk. This way, you will see the power of less talk and more listening. Watch your language when you talk. Unfortunately, many people, including project managers, use uh, words that are not empowering. They use words that empower people. they just weaken people. They do not motivate people, or they use negative words, bad words. So watch your language and use more positive words, more empowering words, more optimistic words, so that you create a working environment that people really like. And mean what you say. So when you talk, mean what you say. That's a sign of integrity. When you mean what you say, when you say what you think, then it means integrity, which is something that many people may not possess. Connect with people when you talk, have an eye contact with them, share some stories with them, go a little bit personal with them, and you will see the difference that it would make. It really, really creates a different environment at which we feel more connected, we feel more friendly, we feel more empowered, and therefore we want to be part of it, we want to contribute more and make it a success, and involve others in discussions. Don't just expect yourself or someone else talk. We know that introvert people are always in the meetings, in the project team, and they may not talk when a couple of more people are always talk because they are extroverts. Try to involve everyone. Ask uh, questions during the meetings. Um, Ask for guidance, ask for input, ask for feedback, involve them in the discussions and listen to them when they talk. So that was number 4. Talk, talk, talk. I would say less talk, more listening. Number 3, overpromise. And that's another common practice. As project managers, we like to please everyone. We like to be very optimistic about project, especially at the beginning of the project, and therefore we overpromise, and that's when the issues arise. So why do we overpromise in what conditions? First one is when you try to please everyone, it means overpromise. You talk to different stakeholders, they have their expectations, and you say yes to every one of those. You talk to people in your team and they bring some issues and you want to please them, so you promise that it's going to be resolved. And all of these things could have conflicts in some cases, but since you want to please everyone and you promise, it it becomes overpromise, and therefore you cannot fulfill all the promises, and that's how issues will be created. The second one, difficulty in saying no. That's one of the issues that I have as well. As project manager, I would like to achieve more. I would like to show my capabilities. I would like to really make sure that my project is successful. I would like to uh, create relationship with the stakeholders, with clients, with project team, and therefore that makes it difficult to say no. And we tend to say always yes, but it's going to be a problem if you always say yes. Um, so practice saying no when possible. The third one, being highly optimistic. So every project has its own challenges, and every project has its own risks. If you do not really consider risks, if you are too optimistic at the beginning of the project, therefore that's going to result in overpromise and therefore issues later on. And making lots of good assumptions, right? So means that if we at the beginning of, let's say, a project, We sit together, we want to see how things would end, and if our schedule is good and our resources would be enough, or if we budget based on the price of the oil, for example, and then in a month it drops 50%, it means that our assumption was too good to be true. So, considering the risks and considering contingencies is important, and therefore the assumptions that we make should be really logical assumptions with a sort of analysis to know if this assumption is valid or not, and if it's valid, um, how probable it is that we're going to hit a roadblock or hit um, a blockage, right? So that's why when you have lots of good assumptions, it may result in overpromise. And the other thing is forgetting about constraints, right? So the triple constraints, time, scope, and uh, money or budget or schedule. So these constraints we have to have in mind: the budget issues, the deadlines, the resource issues, the time, all of these we have to have in mind. If we forget about them, we say, no, definitely this is going to end at this time, but we have forget about other projects, we have forgot about other priorities, we have forgot about resources that could be part of other projects, and we have forgot about the risks involved, and that's when we overpromise and it will result issues. And finally, think of people as machines. So we overpromise when we think people can do whatever we ask them to do, or people are always there for us, or people do not get sick, or people do not have family issues, or people are robots, right? People are not. People are human beings. They're like you. And some people do not want to become to be workaholic, and they have other commitments, they have family issues, they have kids, they have other things in their lives, they want to take vacations. So don't think of people as machines, and therefore do not overpromise with assuming that people are going to be always there as you think to. So some of the food for thoughts uh, regarding the this part, over promise. My suggestion is under promise, over deliver. When you say no, when you under promise, um, the load on your shoulders would be less. You will be more focused, and therefore you can deliver more than what you have promised, which means over deliver. And that makes people happier, right? You at the beginning, you you say what can be achieved, and therefore you do not want to say yes to everyone. You do not want to overpromise. You underpromise, but then at the end you overdeliver, and that has a much bigger impact. So in cases that you can think about this statement: underpromise, overdeliver. The other one, consult your team first and get their buy-in. That's also important. Talk to your people first before you go and promise to stakeholders or to clients. See if they're ready for it. See if they buy into your thoughts about saying yes to something, right? A request or expectation. Don't try to please everyone. That's the problem. That's one of the common practices. We try to please people, and we sort of project. If I say no, if they want to cut people, they will fire me, right? So these thoughts may not be true. Don't be worried about that. But don't try to please everyone, because that becomes problematic for anyone else involved. And take into account scope, budget, time, resource constraints. Take them into account. These are all the constraints, right? Scope, budget, time, as well as resources, the people involved. And be realistic. Be realistic about what can be achieved. Be realistic about the assumptions you make. Be realistic about people's and their capabilities and their competency. Reactive response. Reactive response. As you can see in this picture, let's say this is a project manager and he's seeing something has happened maybe suddenly, and he is in that type of reactive mood. Now he doesn't know what to do, and he is just shouting, distressed. I see lots of managers, I see project managers like that. Something happens, they didn't expect it. Now they go to reactive mode and they want to become a firefighter. Many issues that arise, project managers become firefighters because of those issues. They were not proactive, something happens, and they have to firefight. Um, in many cases, we wait for problems arise. We do not sit and think about what could be the problems down the road. We do not brainstorm on the issues, and therefore we wait for problems to arise, and then we say we'll do something about that when it appears, right, when it surfaces. But that could be too late. That could create lots of issues and problems for the project. The other thing that causes reactive response is not identifying all critical stakeholders. That's one of the big challenges. If we do not dig down to find out all the stakeholders involved in the project from different departments, and then we're going to have maybe some issues later on. We have to really identify critical stakeholders. If we forget about one or two, they may come back later and cause problems that we did not anticipate, and therefore that would cause reactive response by us and others. Project requirements not well defined, that's another thing. At the beginning of the project, we have to um, dig down, go deep, and find out what are the requirements of the project. And part of that comes from stakeholders. If we have not identified all the critical stakeholders, means that we may have missed some of the project requirements because those stakeholders that we missed, that we did not identify, could have their requirements for project, and therefore that causes issues, and therefore suddenly we have to react to those type of situations and create stress and pressure on people. Not thinking thoroughly about risks. Another thing that when you send survey to project managers, one of the issues is really the risks were not identified well. That's one of the top causes of project failures, because when we were doing when we are at the initiation stage of the project, we did not think enough about the risks. When we were going through the life cycle of the project, we did not identify new risks. We did not create response to the risks. and therefore we missed them, we forgot about them, or we waited for them to arise and then respond to them later, but that causes lots of issues and reactive response. Lack of proper risk response, as I said, if you do not have all the risks identified, or some of the risks you do not have a response plan for them, and therefore it's going to cause issues later on. Lack of communication with stakeholders, including the team members, which will cause some conflicts if we do not have proper communication. Many projects fails, many tasks fail because of lack of effective communication, including effective listening. So listen to people, listen to stakeholders, and communicate well with them. Late requests for status update. That's another thing. Many project managers, that's a bad practice. They just wait for the last week to get the status, and then when they see the numbers is not what they expect or something is off track, then they start to shout and they start to push because it's not good, and they have to send it to client, but they do not like this status. That's why you have to monitor throughout the month so that you know how things are going overall, and request for the status updates as early as possible. Making emotional decisions. Many times we make emotional decisions, and that could cause reactive response. Um, the thing is that we have to really control our temper and also control our emotions when we want to decide something important. So what are some of the food for thoughts on this? Number two, my suggestions is think about how you can be more proactive. So rather than reactive response, how can you proactively respond to things? How can you become more proactive? These are some suggestions on that. Stop, think, act. Rather than emotionally deciding about something that could cause issues later on, stop for a second. Think about the consequence and then take action. Take proper action. The other thing is plan ahead. Do not forget about planning, because planning is really necessary for the right actions to take place and for you to be on track. So plan ahead of time, not late, or whenever something changes, include that in your plan and update it. Brainstorm with people about the risks that could be there, and dig down more, find about the stakeholders that you might have missed, find about the things that you might have forgot about, think about the risks that you haven't included, think about the issues that might arise down the road, and look from different angles to projects or the issues. If you see from one side, try to look from another side, or ask others to get their ideas, therefore look from other sides. Okay, so far we have gone through the first the four, I mean, number 5, number 4, number 3, and number 2 of the common practices. Meeting is everything was number 5. Talk was number 4. Number 3 was overpromise. Number 2 was reactive response. And number 1 is manage. Believe it or not, we have project managers, we have project management, uh, but we don't say project manager is a people manager. So when it comes to manage, think about you can manage project. Yes, you can manage the time, you can manage the resources, meaning the quality, you can manage the schedule, but you cannot manage people. So that's one of the common practices, is that we always think that we have to manage people as project managers so that we are successful with our projects. That's not right. When it comes to project management, the common practice could be push mentality. Means that if something that doesn't work, it's people's fault, and therefore we have to push them in order to get things done. That's not right. Um, you can manage time, budget, tasks, resources, but really not people. So if you think you can manage people, that's not the right thing. The other thing about the push mentality is commanding. When we become project manager, we think now we have the authority for everything, and we should command people like a commander. And if something doesn't work, we have to shout, or we have to push them to do to get things done. The other thing about manage or push mentality is meeting deadlines no matter what. I've seen many uh, mm, staff or team members that are being pushed because they have to meet the deadlines no matter what. That is not a good practice, because if we do not understand people, we cannot push them, and this way we hurt them, and they might have many other issues in their lives. But if we do not care about that, then that's not a good practice, and that's not going to result in positive things. Push mentality means care less about people in the team, care more about business, care more about project, which is not a good practice. And blame attitude is another part of manage or push mentality. If something doesn't go right, we do not take responsibility as project manager, and we try to um, blame others for that. We try to put the fault on others and do not take, or we feel we are not accountable for that. So the blame attitude is in many practices, including project management field. And lack of trust, another thing about the managed side of project management about people, could be lack of trust. We do not trust people, we do not respect them, and therefore that could arise issues. And another thing about manage or push mentality is I versus we. We forget about the team. We just think of ourselves, and therefore we push others down to go up. That's sad. Many project managers might do that in order to progress in their projects, in order to go up, to get things done, to show off, to show good in front of the top management. But it may not be good for people that they're using to go up. So the food for thought on this is, it's all about people. Who does the project? Who makes things happen? Who accomplishes the task? The people involved, right? So it's all about people. Uh, Meeting tasks, I mean, accomplishing tasks, meeting the deadlines, managing the time schedule, creating status reports. Everything is done by people in the team. So it's all about people. And when you have happy people, means you have happy clients. If you do not have happy people, then your clients may not be happy because of the results that are being created. Happy clients means successful projects, and successful projects result in successful business, more good projects, happier clients, and therefore the clients will be back, and people become happy, um, happy and happier. And uh, try to balance management with leadership. That's something that is normally forgot. That we always think about the management side of thing and project, not really the leadership side of that. And that's why these days we hear this buzzword of project leadership more and more, because the leadership side really needs to be balanced with the management side in order for things to work in the best. And build relationships with people. Do not destroy the bridges behind you. Try to build bridges. Try to connect people together, because that will develop influence. And when you are more influential, you can get more things done. And as you might have heard, leadership is influence, nothing less, nothing more. That's what John Maxwell, the leadership guru, says. So creating influence takes time, but that's one of the aims that project managers should have, which is not really a common practice. Uh, it's uh, it's about push mentality more than pull mentality. If we are thinking of pull mentality, means we can influence people positively, we can create positive impact, and therefore they say yes when we want something, when we request something. And let your people lead and do their best. Empower them, give them opportunities, delegate tasks to them. Do not think about what if they do not do well. They will if you trust them, if you build that relationship with them, if you have the influence to make them feel important, and therefore make them feel that you do the best job ever for you, because you have built that trust, that respect, and that relationship with them. So here it is, cycle of common practices. This is the cycle of common practices for project managers. Meet a lot, talk a lot, overpromise, react to situations, manage and push. When you manage and push, create more meetings. So meet a lot, talk a lot, overpromise, react, manage. Meet a lot, talk a lot, overpromise, react, manage. That's the cycle that many project managers take. They could be successful, but people will not like them. People do not like to work with them in their projects. So how can we change it? We can change it with the art of project leadership. We can change it with the cycle of best practice. I call this one cycle of best practice. Meet less, act more. Listen more. Under promise, over deliver. Be proactive. Lead, let them lead. Meet less, act more. Right? So that's the cycle. These are the 5 best practices that I talked about in my suggestion side. Meet less, act more. Listen more, under promise, over deliver, be proactive, lead, and let them lead. That's the art of project leadership. So now, do you have the desire to climb the ladder of excellence and get to the peak of success with your projects? I know that you have attended this because of reason, right? Because you want to know about the common practices that are out there. Now, if you want to climb the ladder of excellence in your projects and get to the peak of success, then I have an invitation for you. I invite you to attend uh, my online training, Leadership Soup for Personal and Professional Excellence, and get your passport to leadership mastery. This is a unique training program delivered in 9 high quality modules. And I would like to invite you to do this and uh, take this opportunity and uh, take this training program, because in this training program, I take you through a process that help you master leadership. Now, when we talk about leadership, it's more about uh, building teams. It's more about creating uh, synergies. It's more about influence. It's more about uh, respect. It's more about vision, so that you can achieve what needs to be achieved. It's not about being in front all the time. It's not about um, letting people be um, in the back and then you be in front. No, it's more about creating harmony within the team, and uh, building trust and relationship with the people in the team as well as the stakeholders, the clients, and everyone who is involved. Therefore, you can achieve high performance, high productivity, and the best results that you can achieve by working with people in your projects. So what is involved? As the result of taking this comprehensive video training, you will increase your influence and motivate your team. You will build great relationships with the stakeholders. You will boost team performance and productivity. You will tap into the power of people. And as I said, people are the ones that make things happen. So if you tap into the power of people with the process that I shared with you in the training, then you will see that lots of things get done much easier than thought. And then take your career to the next level. Uh, you will connect with others more quickly and more effectively. You will get out of the blame game mindset and move towards leadership greatness. You forget about push mentality. You think of pull mentality more, and therefore you have better influence on others, and you sustain continued growth. Yes, even in these tough economic times. And I'm just showing here the process from the training. We start with reflection, then the big picture, creating the vision for your project, for your team, and then creating harmony and synergy among teams, I mean the team members, among stakeholders with the team, among the people from different functions, and that team building creates great results. Then we talked about the change, the change that can transfer, the positive change. And then we about the momentum, how you can really create some momentum, traction, so that you can get things done faster with the team and be on schedule, on budget, and always be successful with your projects. And also we talked about the transformation side, how to really stand out and transform as a project manager and project leader, so that you are not like many other project managers. And for because you attended this live webinar, I would like to provide you with a $200 coupon code. So when you go to the site, which is lms.projectcontroltraining.com, and then choose the leadership soup training, and then enter the code PM lead, PMLEAD, you will get 200 instant discount. And you can either choose that or use that for the leadership soup training. That will bring the price down from $297 to just $97. Or if you want to have the whole leadership soup training for free, you may choose to go with the project control training, which is also on the technical side, is very necessary for all project managers and their team members. You can enter that for that training, get the $200 off, as well as having the leadership soup training for free. Go and check it out at lms.projectcontroltraining.com. And also, if you like, you can join the Project Managers Club at www.projectmanagersclub.com. There, the registration is free, and you can have access to lots of networking and sharing ideas, blogs, and stuff like that. So Thank you so much for attending this meeting and this webinar. I hope that you at least got 1 point out of these 5 common practices and the best practices that I shared. And I hope that you implement something and you apply it in your day-to-day activities. And I hope that you also take advantage of the offer that I had with the special discount code PM lead when you go to lms.projectcontroltraining.com. Any questions? So thank you so much. It's about 5 minutes to 7, and I'm gonna close it here. If there is any questions, you can send us an email to support@projectcontrolacademy.com. Thank you and have a great time.